Hi, welcome to the video Spring Boot Static Resources. Through this video, I will help you understand how to use static resources such as images, CSS, JS within a Spring Boot application with two scenarios. In the first scenario, all requests are unsecured except some, and in the second scenario, all requests are secured except some. And I will also share with you how to use static resources that are outside of a Spring Boot application. You know, the standard directory structure for static resources in a Spring Boot application is like this. From the main resources directory, src slash main slash resources is static, and then subdirectories like CSS for putting the CSS files, images for pictures, images, JS for JavaScript files, and other files. And note that all resources placed in the static directory are accessible, permitted, or by default. Let's see my projects in Spring Boot IDE. And you can see here in this Spring Boot IDE, I have some Spring Boot projects, the Submit backend project, and this is a directory structure. As you can see, src, main resources, and static, and then we can have subdirectories. Here I have a JS directory that contains JavaScript files, and if not present, you can create new folder. For example, for CSS and for images, new folder for images. Generally, you can put any files, static files under this directory and in any directory, subdirectories you want. But the standard is that the CSS directory for cascading star sheet files, JS directory for JavaScript files, images for pictures. And you see my second project, Submit frontend, and you can see here. Also in the src main resource directory static JS. Here I have only one JavaScript file. Now I create directories for images and CSS for the CSS, and create the images directory to put the pictures, images. Yeah, you see, so this is a standard directory structure for putting static resources, CSS, images, JS. Now let's come to the first scenario in which all requests are unsecured except some requests. It is suitable for front-end application to be used by customers, and in this scenario, no configuration is required, as Spring Boot allows static resources in the static directory accessible for all requests. This project Submit frontend is the kind of front-end application that is used by the end user, by the customer, and in this type of front-end application, we configure Spring security to allow all requests to be accessible by the end users, and only some requests authenticated required to log in. As you can see here in the configure method of the HTTP security here, all requests are permitted by default, and only this URL slash customer and everything followed by that must require user to log in authenticated here. Now let me start this Submit front-end application. So you can see its user interface, how it looks like, and open Chrome browser to access this Spring Boot application. As you can see, it is configured to be running with embedded Tomcat server listening on port 8080, and the context path is /submit. So I type the URL is http localhost submit. And you see, this is the user interface of my Spring Boot application. And as you can see, it is using Bootstrap, JavaScript, jQuery, and with this kind of front-end application, we configure Spring Security to allow all requests permit all here, and only some requests must be authenticated, require login by the user. So with this configuration, all the static resources are accessible by default, and we don't have to do any configuration. And now let me show you how to put an image as a logo for the website here. So I copy an image, pictures. So I want to put a small logo here. Copy and paste to the image directory here. Paste. Here see we have one image. Show me logo small.png. Now let me include this image to the user interface. I am using the template fragments. So this is a fragment file that contains the HTML code, and this is a section I can put the logo image on here. I use a image tag img with the template attribute src, and here we should use template syntax to point to the static resource, the image submit logo small.png here. So it should be /images submit logo small.png here. That's it. Save and refresh. And you see the logo appears here. Quite nice, right? So for the static resources with this security configuration, we don't have to do anything, because by default all the requests are permitted here, and so do the static resources in the static directory here. You will also see I use JavaScript file here, common_customer.js here. Let me show you where it is used in the project. Customer template, customer home here. You see here is aware that JavaScript file is used script with the template syntax th:/src, and you can see /js/common_customer.js. In this project, I'm using Bootstrap for CSS with a reference to Bootstrap from a CDN. So you don't see any CSS files in the project. You see I'm using Bootstrap from Max CDN here. So if you have any custom CSS files, you can put it here, and just you like the JavaScript file. Or let me show you how to get one. CSS here. Next, the name is common.css. Finish. Yeah, so we have a common.css file here. For example, we specify a static rule for all the heading 1 element. We have color is blue, for example, and we refer to that CSS file here in the head section of the document. Link URL equal static, and we use the attribute th href to refer to the CSS file using template syntax here slash css slash common.css. That's it. Save the changes and refresh the application. And view the page source. View page source, and you can see it includes the common.css file here. Click here and you can see the content. Save, refresh, view page source again. Click here and you can see the content of the CSS file here. So that's very basic, very easy to use static resources in a single application with the security configuration allow all requests to be accessible. And now let's come to the second scenario in which all requests are secured except some requests is suitable for backend application to be used by admins. And with this, in this scenario, we must do some configuration, but it is quite simple. Okay, let me show you the show me a backend project here. Close all here, and you can see in this project I'm also using Spring Security. This is kind of admin application. Web security config here, and you can see in this security configuration I configure Spring Security to require authentication for all requests. As you can see here, all requests must be authenticated here, and only some requests are not, like the login and logout here. Now let me start this application. I stop the front-end application first, stop, and start the submit backend application. Now let's access that submit application. Submit admin here, and you can see this is a login page. This application requires all users must be authenticated to use. In this, as you can see in this statement, any request authenticated. And now I want to show you how to use an image in the static directory here. As you can see, I have used several resources for some JavaScript, rich text editor. Let me show you where they are used in the project. Templates, fragments, and you can see here is where I use the CSS here for font awesome here, for style.css here, the style.css file here, directory within below the static directory. And for JavaScript files here, you see where I used my JavaScript files in the project here, in the JS directory here. As you can see, JS here, you see. Now let's use an image for the login page here. So I put an image here, show me a logo big here, copy and paste into this images directory, and you can see I have the image file name show me logo big.png in the images directory under the static directory, and now I want to include it in the login page of this project, login.html here, and I want to replace this heading on Shopee admin with the logo, as you can see here. So I use the image tag CSS and point to the image file using timely syntax here, slash images and slash the image file name shop me logo big.png, shop me logo big.png here. Okay, and let's refresh to see. And you can see the image doesn't get display, as you can see here. View the page source, and you can see. Let's view the page source, and you can see it refers to the image here, but Spring Security doesn't allow it is accessible, because in this configuration all requests must be authenticated. So we need to do some little extra configuration here, and method here, and we specify the image directory slash images directory slash double asterisk to indicate everything after all files after the images directory, and permit all here for the images save. So with this kind of Spring Boot application where all requests must be authenticated, we need to permit the access to the static resource directory explicitly like this. And now let's refresh the login page, and you can see the logo appears very nice, right? And you can do the same for other directories in this static folder to allow access, for example, to allow access for non-authenticated requests for CSS and JavaScript. Note that this configuration is required only for non-authenticated requests, such as the login page here. And for the pages that the user has to log in, we don't have to use this statement because for all requests authenticated, the static resources are allowed by default. There's another way to allow access to the static resources for non-authenticated request is via the configuration of the web security. Let me show you. So in this class that extends the web security configure allocator, we override another method. Source override implement method, and we override the configure with the parameter web security here. Yeah, and in this configure share web security method, we can tell Spring to ignore the static directories web dot ignoring, and use the and match method to specify the directory here slash images. That's it. And then we got the same result as configuration in the configure HTTP security here. Save the changes and test again. Refresh login, and you can see the logo is still displaying. So this is another way to tell Spring Security to ignore security check for the directories that contain the static resources, and you can do the same for CSS and JavaScript like that, like this. You see. Next, I will share with you how to use static resources that are outside of a Spring Boot application. Examples are shared resources between multiple Spring Boot applications, or user-generated content like uploaded images or any content that can be modified outside the application. And to use static resources that are outside of a Spring Boot application, we need to do some configuration, adding resource handler in a web MVC configurer. Let me show you in my project here. As you can see in this workspace, I have two main projects, one for the backend and another for the front end, and these two applications showing common images of the products. As you can see, let me also start the front end application. And this is the MVC configuration file that implements the web MVC configurer here. And you can see here I configure add resource handlers here to expose some directories that are outside of the application here. Let me open the project directory so you can see resource here. You can see this is a workspace directory. You can see I have 3 projects, and you can see the directories that are outside of 2 of the projects brand logos, category images, product images. Here you can see in these directories the images of the products are stored here. It is uploaded by the end users, so it should be outside of the Spring Boot project, and the images are shared between 2 applications. The front end here you can see the images for products here, you see. And in the admin application, backend application, let me log in. Here is a section, a module that allows the admin users to manage products here, and the product image is also displayed here, as you can see. So the image is shared between two applications, two Spring Boot projects. So we need to put the directory contains images outside here, and to configure accessibility in Spring Boot, we need to create a Java class that implements the web MVC configurer and overrides the method add resource handlers, and then we expose the directories we want. You can see directory add resource handler and the directory name, and add resource location that point to the physical directory, physical path of the directory containing the resources outside the application. And this is a directory name we use in the project. To help you understand, let me add another static resource directory that is outside of the application. For example, for the front-end application here, I want to put a hyperlink, a link that allows the user to download a help document or user guide. So I modify the menu in the front-end application here. Open fragments for the front-end here. And you can see this is a menu. And I want to add a link. You can see I already have a link help here, and I want to allow the user to download a help document which resides in a directory outside of the application. I create a directory here, and you can see front end is a directory of the application. And here I want to create a directory within the project directory, but it is still outside the project, the application. I name it as docs, and I create a new Word document here. Let's write something here. Shop me user guide. Let's see. First line. And save the file into this directory. Help.docx, as you can see. Close. And you can see I have the Word document help.docx file here. And you can see it is outside of the application, but it is the same directory as the project. So how to let the user to download that file? Yeah, I change sref property to use template syntax here. For example, docs directory and help.docx here. There you see. To do so, I need to configure the web MVC configure here to add a resource handler for that directory. I will show you in this method so you can understand. Where this G add resource handler here, and the path here is slash docs and slash double asterisk to indicate any files under this directory, and asterisk location pointing to the actual physical directory. So you can use this syntax file colon slash, and then the directory relative to the project directory is docs. That's it, because the docs directory is relative to the project directory. So we can specify like this. If it is in the directory parent directory, you must use two dots like this. As you can see, the project the directory category images is in the parent directory, so we need to use two dots. But when the directory is in the same project, you just use slash and then the name of the directory like this. Okay, save the change, and now let's test. The benefit of using static resources outside of application that you can modify that document, that resources when the application goes into production, meaning the application is packaged into a jar file, and we cannot modify the jar file to modify the resources. Now refresh, and in the help here, click help.docx docs. Sorry, I opened the wrong file. Web MVC config in the front end, not in the backend. In the front end here, web MVC config here. Fragments in the front end project. Okay. Okay, let's test again. And now it should work. Click help. Yeah, we got an error here. For error. Docs. File docs. Sorry, we need to have the ending slash here. So this is the correct code to expose external directory. Click help. Help.docx. Fragment docs. Help.docx. We need to refresh the project directory so that directory is available. Refresh. Then you can see the doc directory here. That's the reason. Home, help, docs here. We need to get the absolute path to be pasted into the file here, not the relative path. So we need to copy the absolute path. Copy here. My mistake. Okay, so we have the absolute path here, or you can use this statements to get the absolute path. Your name is the relative directory and docs here. So docs, and then change to doc directory doc here to get an absolute path, and this is doc path, and then we concatenate the prefix file with the doc path here, doc path, and note that you must have the ending slash here. Okay, that's it. Now let's test again. Click help, still paste not far. So let's change the docs directory here like this. Use one dot to indicate it is related to the project directory. Home, help, and you can see the help document gets downloaded here. Help docx here. Open it, and we can see the content. Submit user guide here. Exactly the document we have created before. And so to export a directory that is related to the project and is outside of the application, you need to get its absolute path and then add resource handler with the directory to be used in the code, and then the resource location is absolute path. So that's how to use static resources that are outside of a Spring Boot application. So far you have learned how to use static resources in a Spring Boot application, such as images, CSS, Javascript, with two scenarios. In the first scenario, all requests are unsecured except some, and in the second scenario, all requests are secure except some. And you also learned how to use static resources that are outside of a Spring Boot application. I hope you will find this video helpful. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share this video. Thank you.